Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody who's here today to join us for the launching event of the Global Impact Report of the Duke of Edinburgh's International Award. We welcome you all on this exciting day for us to introduce the report called Building the Future, revealing the impact of non-formal education and learning in times of disruption. It is the first ever global and evidence-based impact report of the Award Foundation, started in 2017, and it's exciting to see what has happened over the last 5 years. As you know, the Duke of Edinburgh's International Award develops the skills, curiosity, and resilience of young people around the world in more than 130 countries and territories. The global impact of the award is presented for the first time in this report, and it represents the true global presence of the award. The impact generated varies from country to country and reflects the different context and nuances each country has. Now I'd like to introduce our panelists who will share their experience, how they developed the social impact measurement and their reflections regarding the report. It's great to have such a diverse panel that we will be hearing different perspectives from different backgrounds today. Our first panelist is John May, Secretary General of the Duke of Edinburgh's International Award Foundation. Welcome, John.
Hi, Şafak, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much. Great to have you here today. Our second panelist is Anna Siegel, Chief Executive of the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts. Welcome, Anna.
Thank you very much, nice to be here.
Wonderful to have you here. Our third panelist is Peter Annam, the National Director of the award in Ghana. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you very much, Şafak. It's good to be here.
And our fourth panelist is Alan McGill. He's representing PwC. He's leading the integrated reporting and assurance, and he's the global sustainability reporting and assurance leader at PwC. Great to have you here, Alan.
I think a very warm welcome to you and great to be here.
And our last panelist is Carmen Dragomir, National Director of the award in Romania. Welcome, Carmen.
Really great to be here.
So let's start with our first round of questions, not to lose time. I will start with John, if I may. John, apart from being the Secretary General of the Award Foundation for many years, you're also in the networks of other international youth organizations such as YMCA and Scouts. And since 2020 was a very tough year with massive effects of the pandemic. In your view, how was the education sector, particularly the non-formal education, how was it affected? And how was the Award Foundation affected during these times?
Well, you're right, Şafak. I mean, the last couple of years have been extremely challenging, not just for my own charity, but for many others as well. But more importantly, for more than 1.2 billion young people around the world who have been impacted by COVID-19 response measures in their various countries. It has turned their worlds upside down and locked it down. For many, there's been no face-to-face schooling. There's been no chance to interact with friends. Out of school, extracurricular activities have been wildly curtailed. And I think young people have begun to feel very isolated and alone. The digital divide, I think, has widened drastically as young people who are able to access Zoom and Teams and other platforms, such as the one we're on today, have been able to continue their education, at least in part, informal education particularly. And others have been left adrift and unable to continue to learn. And that's been an enormous challenge. Despite that, the resilience shown by young people has been extraordinary. And I think organizations like ours and Anna's at the World Association of Girl Guides, Girl Scouts, and countless national and local organizations have seen young people develop a real commitment to, and perhaps a new understanding of the importance of the volunteering aspects of what they have been doing. I think we've seen examples of young people giving service in ways that we could not possibly have imagined to their communities. We've seen young people keeping healthy in mind and body through a whole host of different activities. We've seen creativity in terms of facing the challenges of COVID in a way that we could not possibly have imagined. And I think that we have seen the way that for those that are able to access the digital world, the use of that has genuinely been transformed. I think for all our organizations, there's been a real recognition that we are not independent of each other, that we can work in partnership, and in fact, we are interdependent. And I think young people have found that as well in terms of their own communities. So I think all of us, whether young people or organizations, have, despite everything, shown our best sides. I think young people have worked within and with the support of organizations like ours to power change in their communities. And what I hope is that we will continue to learn and benefit from the lessons that we've all learnt over the last 2 years, and that resilience, that enthusiasm, that extraordinary commitment to make a better world continues post-COVID.
Thank you, John, for giving this big picture of the circumstances of the pandemic the young people faced and what the award provided for the young people in these tough times. Now I'm turning to Anna. The World Association of Girl Guides and Scouts stands out as the only global movement empowering girls and young women in the world across 5 regions in the Western Hemisphere, in Africa, in Europe, Asia Pacific, and the Arab countries for over 100 years. Anna, as another international youth organization operating in the field, what is your take of the Global Impact Report? Have you seen any similarities within the report in parallel to your work and strategy?
Well, first I would like to congratulate the Duke of Edinburgh's International Awards. I think it's a really strong piece of work. I think across our sector, generally I think in our sector, but particularly perhaps in the non-formal education and leadership work that we do, we know that we have impact, but we haven't perhaps been as strong as we should be about demonstrating our impact. So I've been really impressed to read it through. I think it's a great initiative and really strong information and results that we can use collectively and that should inspire us individually in our organizations. A lot lot of the issues are the same. I mean, listening to John talk about the consequences of COVID for the young around the world in terms of education and mental health and access to employment and the consequences it's going to have for their, not only their short-term future, but potentially also their longer-term future. And I think also in relation to girls and young women, an additional element of a significant increase in gender-based violence. Interestingly, we just have delivered and adopted our new 12-year vision for the movement, and it's based on ensuring that we have an equal world where all girls can thrive, and that we should by 2032 be an entirely girl-led movement. So it's issues that girls care about, being led by girls, making the change they want to make in the areas that matter to them. We started doing some discussions with girls and young women in about 2019 because we were supposed to adopt our vision in 2020, but then the COVID pandemic struck, so we couldn't go ahead with it. So then we had to push that back for a year. And it was interesting in the consultation that we did with Girl Guides and Girl Scouts, but more widely with girls and young women, the issues that they cared about didn't change particularly. Though, interestingly, there was an increased focus on equality as an issue that they raised. And I think the issues that are brought out and looked at by Duke of Edinburgh and a number of other international youth-facing organisations are similar. The sorts of issues that girls were saying make it harder to be a girl today were gender inequality, pressure to be someone that you're not, feeling unsafe, and a lack of confidence and self-esteem. Now, some of these boys and young men suffer from them as well, but we were focusing on girls and young women. And the issues that the girls and young women we consulted said they wanted to see tackled in the world were similar: environmental sustainability, inequality and equity, and greater peace and security. And I think these all resonate more than ever with us now. So a very similar set of issues. And I think similarly to the results in your study, the feeling that they have of being able to make an influence and have a voice and influence the world for the change that they want to see. I think that's what the impact that your report shows, and that's what we feel that guiding and scouting also delivers. It's empowering girls and young women to be agents of change. What change do they want to see in the world? What skills do they need? How do they develop their confidence and their resilience and their voice? So the changes that they want to see in themselves, locally, in their communities, in their countries and in the world, how can they impact on those and become active global citizens, more engaged in their world? So I think a very similar set of issues. And it's nice to see that, and I'm going to chat more with John about the results and maybe with Alan as well.
Thank you, Anna, for your remarks and for sharing your 12-year vision targeting 2032, which is targeting equality, basically. Thank you for sharing your views and your vision. Now I'm turning to the National Director of the award in Ghana, Peter. Since the award has a very close relationship with the government in Ghana, and the social value results have been recently presented to the president, as I followed. How was it taken by the government, by the presidency? And are these results of an impact report seen as an evidence of quantified impact by the government agencies in a way enhancing the chances for more collaboration? What would you say?
Well, thank you very much, Şafak. Yes, indeed, we presented the report to His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, who is also the chief patron of the award in Ghana. And I must say he was very excited of the outcome. I must say, for the very first time, nothing of that has been done. Like, you know, the first two speakers have said, we do so much as a charity, but we talk about impact, but we've not been able to prove, backed by data, what kind of impact we are making and the contribution we are actually giving. And so he really applauded us for this bold step to carry out a research like this and to ascertain our impact and contributions to the socioeconomic development of Ghana. I must say that the result have been very much welcomed by all and sundry as evidence of our work, here as an award. We have presented copies of the reports to a number of agencies and institutions and other corporate organizations who have been supporting us in recent past. And we intend to present more in the coming weeks, especially using the opportunity to drive collaborations and support towards our growth. So far, I must say that policymakers, institutions, agencies, and corporate organizations now understand our impact as evidence, on social well-being or societal well-being of young people. This gives us a great opportunity to develop collaborations and build on relationships for social investment optimization. And I must say that it also offers us the greatest opportunity to call on as many people as possible, especially the different actors in the impact ecosystem, government, businesses, non-profit organizations, philanthropists, etc., to collaborate in a more structured way towards a shared income, impact incomes. And I must say that the report is really, putting us on the pedestal of getting people to jump onto, carrying out research like this to ensure that we actually have evidence of the impact we normally talk about, and we are very much excited here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your experience. And we see that to get more stakeholders within the picture, into the picture, having an evidence-based report makes a difference. Thank you, Peter. PwC has played a pivotal role in producing such a groundbreaking social impact research together with the research team of the Award Foundation. And just today, we have heard that the Award Foundation has won the third sector leadership category at this year's Social Value Portal Social Value Awards. Welcome again, Alan, and congratulations. My question to you is, why is the report important for the Award Foundation, and what advantages does it offer? Why is this report important for the charity sector?
Okay, great, thank you. So I think the report itself is really important for a number of reasons. You've already heard from some of the speakers already about the way in which they have fantastic movements, whether it is the guiding movement or others. And when you look at some of the reports that have been historically produced, you often find that there are what I might call classic output metrics being given and reported on. The number of young people, for example, perhaps in guiding, at the end of a particular year and point in time. And it gives a size of the number of participants. And indeed, the Duke of Edinburgh International Award Scheme has done very similar things. It operates across 130 or over 130 countries with millions of people participating in the scheme. But what we wanted to do, and how PwC started to work with the Duke of Edinburgh International Award, was back in 2017 to say, well, okay, how can you find a credible approach to measuring the impact, to start looking at how and what value is being created, and are there ways in which you can do that, in a way that is going to be robust, will stand up to the scrutiny of challenge, and be transparent around the way in which that calculation is undertaken, because clearly you don't want to start overclaiming because people then won't believe your numbers. Equally, you don't want to underclaim. So again, it was important to understand how to create a methodology and a transparent way in which to do that. Why was that important? Well, I think increasingly you've seen in this day and age that if you want to attract funding, maybe from the corporate sector, they want to know what impact their money is going to have if they give it to some organization. And so actually the ability to demonstrate and to show how the Duke of Edinburgh International Award is creating value and is creating broader social value, I think is really important. And so therefore on that basis, giving this information to the funders, potential funders, other stakeholder groups, really allows them to go and to move beyond those classic output metrics to really start to get under the skin of, the impact that they're having with young people. And again, I think, and to John's point, at a really critical moment when they really need support now, coming out of the pandemic. So the other thing around that is then clearly another advantage is to help shape the strategy of the organization that measures the impact. Why is it that one country is able to create more impact than another? That's not to say there are one size fits all and everyone has to do the same thing. It's about providing insight and better informed decision making around that strategy to deliver what's best locally and to give that insight locally to the organization, be it the adult mentors who, in the case of the Duke of Edinburgh International Award Scheme, run what goes on in their local country. So again, it was important to be able to provide that insight around what's happening to help shape the strategy. You've just heard again, from Anna about a 12-year strategy. You're seeing that, I think, being more developed more and more by organizations as they start to vision out, for longer time periods. So the other thing I think that's also exciting about the report is the ability for it to be replicated, for other organizations to start looking at how they might actually, measure their impact. And I think, again, the transparency, not just around the numbers, but actually the methodology itself, has been a real help to other organizations to say, look, this is how you can do it. Again, you may even want to work with us and we'll share with you what we've got and what we do. And on the back of that, here's how we can work together, sharing information, because again, that's an important point about what I think needs to happen in this sort of particular space. So there are lots of advantages, to, I think, having a report like this, really shining a spotlight on what organizations can do, the impact that they can have, moving beyond those sort of classic, more traditional metrics, and being more sophisticated, therefore, in how that information can be used to shape the organization to deliver, one hopes, even more value because of the insight that it gets.
Thank you, Alan. In today's world, in the social impact world, if I may say, to know which methodology or standards to use or create matters a lot. And it's an ongoing discussion now in this world of social impact, particularly. And to be transparent as well, it matters. And as we cannot say one size fits all, it is really a big challenge to have this program, this research done in more than 130 countries and territories, and scaling, of course, for the sake of scalability. The report serves as a very good, very reliable evidence-based tool. So congratulations again. And now I'm turning to our last panelist, Carmen. Carmen, given the Global Impact Report was produced in the toughest time of the pandemic, what does it tell us in terms of empowering young people? What were the challenges, the highs, the lows, barriers, limitations of having this report produced in these difficult times in Romania?
I think we can talk for hours about this. Thank you so much for the question. Like you already mentioned, during this difficult time, we have seen firsthand how the award played a key role in supporting young people, adult volunteers, and also their communities to be resilient, active, but also to be engaged. The pandemic had devastating impacts on education, mental health, personal development, and I think that the long-term implications are yet to be seen, both in our country, but also worldwide. In terms of strategy, it changed everything. We had to rethink our entire strategy for the next years. We focused our attention on supporting existing partners and also our centers. And even with the restrictions, our participation doubled. So it has been clear that our focus should be switched to our center care and to be more selective in terms of possible new partners. Talking about challenges, I think one of the biggest challenge we had is that schools were closed. Our centers decided to postpone delivering the program for the school year, continued their education offline, but also our concern was keeping volunteers and participants motivated and actively involved. But with the help and strong support with a small team of staff members and volunteers, we continue to improve access, reach, and impact of the award and support young people who had lost contact with their leaders and with their youth groups or even schools closed. Also, we needed to redesign face-to-face to virtual training courses to support the award community. And personally, I think it has been amazing to have teachers and youth workers from different parts of the country all together at the training. This would not be possible in face-to-face training courses, to work together, to share experiences, but also introducing temporary changes during the lockdown, helping young people to continue with their activities. And we started to pilot Beyond Borders project, a virtual open award center that enabled young people from communities where the award was not present to be part of the award. And this was possible with the special involvement of young ambassadors and gold holders that became leaders and inspired younger students with their journey. Talking about pandemic and 2020 and later 2021, I think that the creative solutions that participants and leaders found have been impressive and speaks to the enduring nature of the award in a time when young people are facing huge challenges. We are already one of the most active youth organizations in Romania, and our goal is to make sure that the award program is available to every young person in our country. And now more than ever, we need to invest in the world's most precious resource, our young people. Regarding empowering young people, and I would like to end my comment to this question, I would like to end with a testimony from a young holder that became a leader and later a manager at her youth organization. The award for me is a stimulus that always makes me overcome my fears and face all challenges. And above all, it always reminds me that nothing is impossible. The award has contributed a lot to my personal development from bronze participant to award center manager. And it has been and continues to be about wonderful people, challenges, fun, motivation, but especially about me, Ali, from now. I encourage every young person to join today. Thank you.
What else can be said? Thank you very much for sharing your experience and these invaluable remarks with us, Carmen. Now, we are managing time very efficiently. I think now we are going to diving into the second part of our discussion, going back to John. John, given impact measurement is barely considered as an investment strategy by the nonprofit sector, how did the trustees of the award foundation come to the understanding that impact should be measured? And what was their vision? What was the value of having the Global Impact Report?
I think the trustees of the Duke of Edinburgh's International Award Foundation, and I would say trustees of the various operating organizations around the world, have all recognized what Alan was talking about much earlier, which is that for many, many years, we've kind of known that non-formal education and learning is important, but we haven't been able to explain why using data. We've had great testimonies from young people whose lives have changed. We've had terrific understanding of the outputs that have been created through award participation. So numbers of young people participating, numbers of young people achieving awards, and so on and so forth. But we've never really been able to delve into the real evidence to show, I think, a really, really important truth, which is that non-formal education and learning is not just a nice to have, a recreational set of activities for young people to undertake after school, but actually it's an essential part of helping young people be #world ready, or whatever other hashtag you might choose, and that policymakers around the world need to recognize that if you're going to provide a holistic education to young people, then you're going to need to invest not just in the formal education system, but the non-formal education and learning systems as well. Because of that, I think trustees have been itching to find a way of measuring our impact more effectively than we have in the past. And of course, so many of those trustees, Şafak, like yourself, have a background not just in research, but also in business. And they're used to talking more and more in terms of return on investment. And so, of course, they're then coming to us in civil society and saying, well, start talking our language. You know, if we invest, and it is an investment, then what happens as a result? What is the return? And there has been a real challenge for civil society to describe what return on investment means when you're not talking about a straight return in terms of financial return directly to an investor. I think the work that the team at PwC has done with other sectors is truly, truly groundbreaking. And I am so proud that the trustees of the foundation chose to work with Alan and his team in order to shift that thinking across into specifically the world of non-formal education and learning. And I would have to pay testament, if I may, Şafak, to Melek de Wint, to Amy Pierce, to Sigrid, who as members of the foundation team, along with Alan and his team, and along with the national directors like Peter and Carmen and others, got behind that challenge from trustees and have delivered, I think, a very, very, not just compelling narrative, not just a really important theory of change, but a set of data and results that show that non-formal education and learning is that essential piece that is so necessary to a young person's growth. What we've got is something that's robust. What we've got is something that's transparent. We've got something that's relatively easy to communicate in what is a very complicated space. And I am really excited that not just philanthropists, and there are a few online, and thank you for those of you who support us, but also policymakers, heads of state, influencers are all recognizing the importance of the work that Anna and others lead in this world. I'm really delighted that the foundation can play an important part in that work.
Thank you, John. This impact report is the best way to say depending on data and evidence matters, and non-formal education is important depending on data matters. I mean, here, data is the universal language for everybody to bring everybody together. And from what I also collected from what you said is, I just quote the holistic way of education you said, which is very important, putting together formal and non-formal education together as a holistic approach in today's world and tomorrow's world. That matters a lot as well. Thank you very much for your remarks. Anna, I'm coming to you for your second question. What is the approach of the World Association of the Girl Guides and Girl Scouts when it comes to measuring impact? Do you find measuring impact necessary, and why?
Thank you very much. Well, I'm going to start with the second question. Is measuring impact necessary, and why? From my perspective, measuring impact is absolutely crucial. Coming to one of the points that Alan made, if you haven't thought about the impact you want to have, how will you develop a sensible strategy or a plan for your organization or in your personal life? You know, you need to know what you want to do, what you want to change, and to be able to do that, you need to figure out what you want by way of results or impact. So if you want to make a difference, you need to know what difference, you need to have a set of results or impacts that you want to make. Then I think it's also crucial because that allows you to monitor, evaluate, and assess whether you've met what you plan to do. And it also allows you to learn from what you did. Did you succeed with what you wanted to achieve, or didn't you? And if you didn't, or not as much as you had hoped, how would you adjust your programming or your activities so that you can ensure you do reach the impact that you want? So I think if you want to create change, you need to know what change you want to create. So you need to set up a set of impact indicators, and then you need to measure it, and then you need to make sure you're successfully achieving it. I do think that certain areas are harder than others, and that's why I think this piece of work is so exciting, because I think we all know intuitively that non-formal education and leadership by the young matters, but having some data that establishes the difference that it makes and why it matters, I think is really important. My board has a thirst for this information. I've been here since 2020. It's very much on my agenda and on the board agenda, something that we need to think about for what is the impact, not so much of programming, because that's easier to assess the impact of particular programs. The bigger question for us is, what's the impact of being a Girl Guide or being a Girl Scout? What skills do you learn? How does it change your life now and into the future? How does it make you more resilient, more confident, more engaged in your community, better mental health, better physical health? The sorts of issues that you looked at in your set of impacts are very much the sort of impacts that we look at and know, but we don't have sufficiently the data to prove that in relation to the work that we do as a global organization. And the member organizations, all 152 of them, they want, and it's a part of our new 2-year global strategy, to think more smartly about what is the impact of being a guide or a scout on the life path of individuals. And then in addition, the influence that they have in their lives and the changes that they make. I think another element for me about the importance of measuring impact, it's why do we do this thing rather than another thing? If you haven't worked out the impact, then you can't decide why I would invest on doing this program with this group of young people compared to a different program with a different group of young people. It's also crucial in today's world, and rightly so, for donors, partners, and stakeholders. it's crucial if you want, I mean, for us, we want girls and young women to have a voice in spaces where their voice is not sufficiently heard. To be able to have an effective voice, they need also to have data. So I think we just need to make sure that as a sector, we're smarter about having information that convinces those we're trying to influence. I think it's also important for the attractiveness of what we offer. I mean, for the award and for guiding and scouting, if we can't say why it makes a difference to be a guide or a scout or to do the award, what is it that we're asking people to do and why would they want to do it? So I think motivation, excitement, value change, it's really important for all of those reasons. In terms of my organisation and our approach to measuring impact, I think we have very good impact measurement in relation to our programmatic activities. So we've got programs on violence against women, girl-led action on climate change, action on body confidence. And I think the indicators and the results-based approach we have for that is pretty good. As I said before, I think we're not as strong in having the data that would support what we intuitively know is the impact of being a guide or a scout. And the other question we have about it, which is a bit different from the award, but I think quite interesting, is how long do you have to have been a guide or a scout, and at what age, and doing what sort of things for it to have that lifelong impact? So I think there are some really interesting questions that could be teased out there also. The one last area I want to talk about briefly, it's in the area of advocacy, because I've worked in advocacy with the International Red Cross and with the United Nations, and it's always hard to know what's the impact of advocacy. In guiding and scouting, we've got the question, what is the impact of advocating for the individual? And what is the impact of the advocating that the individual does? And I think both of those are really important. I think the impact of girls and young women feeling that they have a voice, developing their skills so they know who they can go to speak to make change in their community, or at the Committee on the Status of Women, or at COP26. I think that's super value in terms of the individual's capacity to make change throughout their lives and speak up when they need to about that which is needing to change. But the impact of the advocacy, that also is really important. And I think it's always difficult to work out the extent to which this piece of advocacy made a difference on a government's policy, or on a piece of legislation, or on an international treaty, or on human rights respect in a particular context. So I think from my perspective, the areas where I would like to see guiding and scouting as a movement do some more impact assessment is particularly the value of being a guide or a scout, and the consequences of advocacy for the individual and for the social change desired through the advocacy. So thank you again for the question.
Thank you, Anna, for your valuable remarks on the essence of data and measuring impact, of course. So I'm turning to Peter quickly. Ghana was one of the first pilot countries when the impact assessment started back in 2018. As an organization measuring its impact in the past few years, what would you recommend, Peter, other organizations in terms of integrating impact management processes into their operations?
Well, thank you once again. I mean, one of the important hallmark of impact investment is the commitment to measure and manage the said impact. And so therefore, it is very integral in ensuring or making effective impact measurements, which includes identifying and considering the positive and negative effects businesses and organizations like the award, like we have in Ghana, our actions and how it impacts on people and the society we live in or operate in. It is therefore not enough, like we're all saying, to just sing out the contributions and impact we make, but we must prove this qualitatively back with data. As an organization, there is a need to integrate impact in measurement and management processes into our businesses so that we are able to share in a more clarifying manner our impact and contribution. To be able to do this, as an organization, we have continuously build evidence through research. And that's the reason why, back in 2017, when the foundation talked about carrying out research on impact, we easily jumped on because we believe that research will give us that data to be able to clarify our impact and contributions. Beyond that, we must continue to collect impact stories to be able to share with all stakeholders. And this helps us, and this must be done continuously as part of our everyday work, purposely to help us to make pragmatic decisions when it comes to programming, just like Anna had shared earlier on. Secondly, I think it's also very important that organizations begin to think about a participant-centered program management. What I mean by participant-centered program management simply means as an organization, we must continue to engage our stakeholders, especially our beneficiaries, so that we get their feedback. And their feedbacks are very, very critical components in the impact we make, on them and the society we find ourselves. For example, if an organization finds that the participants or beneficiaries of a certain demographic groups are dropping out of the program at a higher rate, I've seen a question of that sort. What do we do to translate the conversion rates, increase our conversion rates as an award? We would need to better understand the reasoning behind this phenomenon through conversations. And that includes having focus group discussions, interviewing the participant, and in part the frontline workers, the award leaders, the other volunteers. These kind of conversations helps us to design programs and initiatives to help address the phenomenon or the challenge. And so having a participant-centered program management approach is very, very important to ensure that continuous feedback keeps coming to help us improve upon the impact we make. And then thirdly, as an organization, we must be able to build stakeholders' confidence and trust when it comes to financial management. John was talking about ensuring that we are able to go back to donors and sponsors and are able to tell them what the return on their investment is with. And I think it's very, very important that for us to build on their confidence, we must be able to ensure that we have a robust financial management system as an organization to be able to account for the resources that they have given us, not just showing the impact that they have given or we are making through their donation, but able to account for the resources effectively that has been given onto us. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter, for sharing your thoughts. I'm quickly turning to Alan. The impact measurement approach within the report is centered around the principles of social value defined by Social Value International. And the methodology to quantify social impact was developed by PwC's Total Impact Measurement and Management TIM framework. We can see that a tailored model has been developed for each award country. Can you please tell us briefly about the total impact generated through young people completing their award in 2020, Alan?
Indeed, thank you. Yes. So look, I think first of all, it's really important to say that having a robust methodology is absolutely critical to underpin the data and the information. Without that, you lose the credibility as you start to look at the data and look at the information, and then no one wants to use it because they don't believe it as such. So using, as I say, the best practice around the Social Value International and its framework, applying some of the PwC, Total Impact Measurement Management framework as well to come up with the overall methodology, I think was really important because it actually demonstrates and shows as well that we've used tried and tested, economic analysis that economists have used for decades. So that I think was really important to make sure that the value and the impact that was being generated, is a valid impact as such. The other thing, of course, is that we went through an exercise with the International Foundation to actually work out how to, for each country, fit the right sort of impact metrics to look at. We identified 7 in total, 5 of which have now been valued and quantified in terms of participation rates. But the important thing around that, and again, Peter was just sort of alluding to it, is the availability of data. We're in an area at the moment where there is a lack of data. There is not very much around. And to the extent that you do find it, you often find that there are gaps and information gaps within that data. So that was also an important part of working with the foundation over the last few years to access and to fill those gaps, to get that data from the young people, the participants, from alumni, from the adult volunteers and mentors, so that you've got, again, a good, strong, credible base from which to then apply the methodologies to come up with the values that are created. It's no surprise to hear that there are 3 principal stakeholders who the value is effectively ascribed to. 76% of the impact is on the young people themselves, not unsurprising, and great to see, as I say, a huge impact occurring with them. 17% then was actually on the adult mentors, and actually the balance, 7%, on wider society. So again, I think it also demonstrates that it isn't just about actually the young people themselves. There is that knock-on spillover effect into the adult volunteers, just in the same way as you would have through the guiding movement, through all their leaders, etc., who would be, at 2 hours a week, not 2 hours a week, I can tell you, but essentially, they are getting a huge amount out of it. But when you come to then that value, and we've heard a number of people already talking about sort of some of those areas, it is around, as John was indicating right at the very beginning, about mental health, well-being, resilience, self-esteem, community cohesion, dealing with social issues, getting to understand that if you volunteer at a young age, it's likely you will continue then through your adulthood to continue to volunteer to deliver more value. It's about skills, employability, being able to do things in society. That means you are, returning something back and being productive. So these are all areas that have been looked at, quantified, and essentially values created for in terms of the report. And as I mentioned in the first question, you then can now use that insight to inform strategy, as Anna was saying, about program development, what you want to achieve, the direction, outcomes of what you want to achieve over time. So having that robust methodology grounded in basic economics that is tried and tested, delivering insight because you're starting to collect the right sort of data, means you can trust the values that start to come out of the process.
Valuable reflections. Thank you. Thank you, Alan. And our last question today goes to Carmen. Since you have measured your impact in Romania, Carmen, for the first time, how are you planning to use these results?
Thank you. As already mentioned, in collaboration with the Awards Foundation, we wanted to discover the full impact of the award on young people, but also on adult volunteers, like Alan just said. And it has been amazing working with the research team for the award's first Global Social Value Report, seeing the impact of non-formal education and learning in times of disruption, but also measuring growth and personal development for young people, and also for adult volunteers. We also grow with the younger ones, and having a methodology and results of the impact and values created has been a bless. This report is a fantastic way to share the impact of the award in our country, generate a greater awareness and understanding, but also have a stronger network of policymakers, sponsors, and potential new partners. Build a network of stakeholders who use the award locally to its best effect. from correctional facilities, foster care, youth centers, national schools and sports clubs to the most prestigious private international schools and universities, the award framework can support and thrive in a multitude of different environments. And one thing is certain, young people will be among those who experience the greatest impact, and we will continue to develop the right resources to help them thrive, but also to have the strong support of these data to show it. And talking about people, we are happy to share that our foundation will be hosting this October the next Global Award Forum that will bring together leaders from the association from all around the world in our country, in Cluj-Napoca, to plan the future growth of the award for the next years. The theme, supporting the infinite potential of young people, will discuss issues affecting young people, how the award can help, and how to reach all young people between the ages of 14 to 24, giving them access to the awards to positively impact themselves and their communities. Just to mention that the event takes place every 3 years and brings supporters world leaders from over 100 countries, with the special presence of His Royal Highness Prince Edward, Count of Wessex, Her Majesty Margareta, custodian of the Romanian crown and patron of the award in Romania, and His Royal Highness Prince Guillaume of Luxembourg. At the heart of the forum hosted this year are young people, and the present royal houses will emphasize the importance of the culture, education, and youth development as a whole. The topics will address real challenges young people face during this disruptive time. And most of all, celebrating the life and legacy of our founder and his achievements. As we enter in 2022 and with the new situation in Ukraine, I think we are all refocusing on the very essence our founder Kurt Hahn said. There is more in us than we know. If we could be made to see it, perhaps for the rest of our lives, we will be unwilling to settle for less. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen. So this was a great discussion covering many facets of the social impact research and the global impact report today. We have heard reflections from the Award Foundation, from another international youth organization, the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts, from the national directors of the award representing Ghana and Romania, and finally from PwC that led the way to the making of this report. So the name of the report is called Building the Future, and it aims to present, to show the impact of non-formal education and learning in times of disruption. In that context, the award equips young people to be ready for the world, for the challenges. And as the framework for the non-formal education provides the toolbox for young people to develop resilience, adaptability, leadership, problem-solving skills, actually these skills are called 21st century skills. For the Award Foundation, it is important to prove and ultimately improve its impact. And as the report shows, the foundation remains committed to being at the forefront of impact research in the future. The report is considered as a milestone in the foundation's journey to incorporating impact evaluation and monitoring into the processes and reporting, rather than its final destination. Before we close our panel, I would like to mention the endless efforts and support of people who made this happen before we close. So on behalf of the Award Foundation, I would like to thank Alan and all the sustainability and climate change team at PwC for the long-term collaboration on this project so far. Also, we thank the trustees of the International Award Foundation who had the vision 5 years ago that we should prioritize this impact research and who have committed the importance of this massive piece of work. Another thank you goes to Melik Devind for successfully leading this impact research work over the last few years. And finally, we would like to thank the donors and supporters of the award, without whom none of our work would be possible, in particular, the ones that give in part specifically for our research initiatives. So thank you to everybody who spared their time today to join us for this launching event of the Global Impact Report. Thank you and goodbye.